Deion Sanders kept his promise to Miss Peggy. The Colorado Buffaloes are going bowling.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode, your live postgame recap, is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you guys get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and tune in every single day because we are here all the time talking about the Buffs. Let's talk about what Colorado achieved on Saturday tonight, or what they achieved tonight on Saturday, if you will. Cincinnati Bearcats came into town 5-2 record. I honestly thought this Cincinnati team was kind of fraudulent. I don't think that they had really been tested by anyone good, or I won't say anyone good. I would say the only test that they had early in the season was against Pitt, and they lost that game, right? So we hadn't seen this Cincinnati team beat anyone that I was confident in. So going into this game, I projected a double-digit Colorado win, which is exactly what happened. The Buffs ended up winning 34-23. This is the first time since 2016 that Colorado is bowl eligible, but it's the second time that they've made it to a bowl game, or the first time that they made it to a bowl game since 2020. They made it during the COVID year. The Pac-12 only played 6 games that season, and so Colorado made it to Alamo Bowl. Played against Texas, actually, if I remember correctly, and they got blown out. So what does this bowl game mean? Well, for starters, before anyone gets in their feelings and says, oh, it's just a bowl game, it's 6 wins, blah, blah, blah. That's not their goal. Right. It's not Colorado's ultimate goal to make it to a bowl game. Like, they're not playing to make it to the Tostitos Pop-Tart Bowl or the Kevin Borba needs to get gas in his car bowl. Like, that's not the bowl game that they're shooting for, right? Like, they're hoping to make it to the college football playoff. They're hoping to make it to the Big 12 title game, the championship game, the championship game of all of college football. Like, they have further aspirations than this bowl game, but let's not ignore the turnaround that we've seen from this program. Let's not diminish what they've accomplished, right? Just because Colorado wants to achieve more doesn't mean we shouldn't applaud them for what they've accomplished thus far. This isn't saying that this is the end for them. This isn't me saying that, hey, they've done it, the season's over, we can clap it up for them. You know, a lot of people projected that they wouldn't hit 6 wins, and they did it. So now we could just turn our TVs off and we'll see them next year, right? No, Colorado has major aspirations, but you can't get to the Big 12 title game without winning 6 games. I mean, I guess you could. I don't know if mathematically that's possible, but realistically, you know what I mean, right? You can't get to the college football playoff without reaching 6 games, that 6-win threshold. You can't sort of exercise those demons of missing bowl games without winning 6 games. And so Colorado did what they needed to do. They handled business, right? And I wanted to talk about how I felt throughout this game, right? I think there was a lot of different feelings that I felt early on in the game, and I thought it was somewhat of I would say a dominant performance at first, or at least not in the first quarter. They start off strong, at least. We'll put it that way, right? Force a 3 and out. They score a touchdown first drive. Jimmy Horn Jr., shout out to you, dude. You played yourself, I guess. I mean, he threw out the deuces. It looked cool. It genuinely did. I love that. I love the energy. But in college football, we all know they're not allowed to have fun. So he got flagged, and they took away his 57-yard touchdown, and then ended up being a Travis Hunter touchdown. Cincinnati answered, but then what I liked is Colorado answered right. They answered with their touchdown of their own. And then Cincinnati answers again, and then Colorado goes. And this is, I think, a testament to how much Deion Sanders has improved to his time management. Colorado gets a field goal with 3 minutes and 28 seconds remaining. Cincinnati goes for it on 4th down, I believe it was, is how they ended up with this. So they go for it on 4th and 1 with 33 seconds left at the Colorado 46. They get stuffed. Colorado then scores a touchdown on a busted coverage, and all of a sudden, a game going into halftime that probably should have been 17-14 is 24-14, and then Colorado comes out in the second half and scores a touchdown right away to make it 31-14. Like, Colorado, in my opinion, was in control of this game from the moment it started to the moment it finished. No matter how close Cincinnati was getting, there was never a part of me where I was like, well, Colorado's probably going like Cincinnati is probably going to come back. Like I just did not think that was going to happen, right? The Bearcats just did not perform well enough. They could not stop this Colorado offense, and defense or offensively, they didn't do enough quick enough, right? They got a little momentum late in the game with a field goal and a touchdown, but it was too little, too late. So Colorado's going bowling. Very excited for the program. I'm very excited because obviously I'm newer to the Colorado beat. I'm newer to the Colorado scene, right? I cover the sport nationally. I was a part of the Pac-12 networks when Colorado went 1-11. I was at the Pac-12 network. Colorado was on every game of theirs was on the Pac-12 network virtually. They were terrible, right? And everything about that team was just like depressing. And Colorado had like the stretch where they were the worst program in college football for multiple years. And I don't think people will give him enough credit. I mean, Joel Klatt will, because he's obviously a Colorado alum and he's a rational person. But I don't think enough people will give Deion Sanders credit for what he's done, right? He took a chance last year on his staff, to a transfer portal tactic where it was just like bring in as many portal players as possible and we'll see what happens. And he recognized that it didn't work, right? And while he still went back to the portal, he went in with a targeted mindset. He went in with a mindset of, hey, I can't just bring in all of these guys who are former blue chip recruits, or I can't just bring in this one guy who was, he played a bit at Old Dominion or whatever. Like, he had a targeted plan. They put a lot more thought and effort into how they attack the transfer portal. Coaching wise, he took a chance on Robert Livingston, which I still think is going to go down as one of the best coaching hires in college football. Colorado gave up 9 second half points. I mean, Colorado's defense continues to be a revelation for them. It continues to be, I don't want to say the strong suit of this team, because obviously there's the offense, but when they were such a liability last year, where it was like Shedeur Sanders, one, was fighting for his life with the offense line being terrible, but two, he had to outscore and outduel everybody because the defense couldn't stop anyone. The defense now under Robert Livingston has taken some major strides. So I think Deion Sanders deserves some major, major props for what he's done with this program, right? Deion Sanders took this program from irrelevant and terrible to one of the most popular in college football, and a program that has a legitimate shot at contending for not only a Big 12 title, but a college football playoff spot if everything goes right. So that's a pretty big turnaround in just a year and a half. Deion Sanders has proven that he's more than just a flashy coach that is just there to cash some checks and have some fun and bring attention to his sons. He's proved that he's a damn good football coach, and more people need to start giving him that respect. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about who my standouts were from Colorado's Week 9 win against the Cincinnati Bearcats. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at wrong one. Not Gametime this time. FanDuel. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment worth more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in on this late Saturday night to talk about the Colorado Buffaloes. We're here, first of all, Locked On Buffs. If you're new, we're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, so that way you never miss anything Colorado related. Let's talk about my standouts for the game. I think we got to go with the obvious ones, if you will, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, right? They're the heart and souls of this team. The offense kind of goes as they go. Shedeur Sanders, the ball only hit the ground 5 times. Like, he completed 25 of 30 passes, completing 83% of his passes, which I don't know if people really are paying enough attention to this, but to put this into perspective, this is now the third game in the last 4 or in 3 out of their last 4 games, he's completed 80% or more of his passes. Like Shedeur Sanders is truly one of the most, if not the most efficient quarterback in college football. He had 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown. And I think, obviously, I don't want Shedeur Sanders scrambling around, risking his life out here. But I do think when he takes off and runs at times, like when it's the right time to do it, I think he adds another dynamic to this offense. So he's my first standout of the game. The second one has to be Travis Hunter, right? Travis Hunter had 2 not Travis Hunter games the past couple weeks, right? Arizona State and then Kansas State, right? He was injured in both of them, wasn't really playing like his normal self. Today he bounces back, 9 catches, 9 touchdowns would be insane. 9 catches for 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then on defense, he also made some plays, had some pass breakups. He had 4 pass breakups and a couple tackles. So Travis Hunter was all over the field for the Buffs, as he normally is. I think this game sort of gets him right back into the Heisman race because Ashton Jeanty had, I don't want to say a bad game, right? By his standards, it was. It was kind of one of those things where he still rushed for over 100 yards, but he was like 3-point-something yards per carry. When all year he was averaging 10 yards per carry. So UNLV did a good job on him, and Travis Hunter's taking advantage of that. And so Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, 2 of my standouts. Isaiah Augustive, he was someone that if you guys follow the Locked On Buffs Twitter, great. If you don't, go make sure to do that right now. I tweeted before the game on Friday. I tweeted my 3 offensive players who I thought would stand out. And it was Shedeur, it was Travis Hunter, or not Travis Hunter. It was Shedeur, LeJounte Wester, who had 5 catches for 56 yards. And then it was Isaiah Augustive, who was just named the starting running back. And I've said this all along, Colorado's run game doesn't need to be UCF's run game. Colorado's run game doesn't need to be Texas A&M's run game or Navy's run game, Army's run game, where it's like, okay, we need 350 yards rushing out of you guys, make something happen. They need the run game to be productive. They need the run game to be complementary. And I think Isaiah Augustive being named the starter has boosted his confidence, and I think it's added a different element to this offense. He rushed for 22 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown. He was 9 yards short of becoming the first 100-yard rusher in the Deion Sanders era. So really close there. I thought he was really impressive. And I thought the offense as a whole was really impressive. Jimmy Horn did really well as well. They made an emphasis to get him involved early. I didn't love the touchdown getting called back. I think it's a bogus call. I think it's a stupid call. But realistically, the refs are going to ref. The refs are going to do what they're going to do. So let's just be cognizant of that. And I think he learned from that mistake. Defensively, let's give the defense some love because I think they had a strong performance. Right. You have to go with Travis Hunter on the defense side of the ball. For one, he had 4 pass breakups. Preston Hodge, I thought was amazing this game. He had an interception that was called back that I didn't think was pass interference, but he had also 2 pass breakups, which was impressive. And overall, I think the Colorado secondary is proving, for the most part, outside of maybe one individual, that they're one of the better groups in college football, or at least in the Big 12, right? I think I trust them a lot. You also have to go with Cameron Craig. Coach Prime often refers to him as the unsung hero of this defense. Leads the team in tackles with 8 total tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for a loss. He's all over the place, right? He had the team's lone sack, right? I know I talked about this before the game when I did my keys to victory, and I was like, Brendan Sorsby has only been sacked 10 times, right? Colorado needed to, one of my keys was getting pressure on him and forcing him to make mistakes with his arm, forcing him to miss throws, because you're probably not going to get to him. Cameron Craig got to him. So key player right there. And then lastly, I think you have to go other key player, and I feel like I owe him a bit of an apology. And so this is an apology tour on my behalf. Alejandro Mata, the kicker, 2 for 2 with a long of 47, right? After the first 2 or 3 games, I think it was the first 2 games. I think it was after the Nebraska game. I was one of the people who was like, you know what? I think Colorado needs to make a kicking change. And Alejandro Mata has made me eat my words entirely. He's become one of the most consistent kickers, or at least he's returned to being one of the most consistent kickers in college football. Like, let's just go game by game breakdown of what he's done, right? So in the first 2 weeks, he goes a combined 1 for 3 or 2 for 3. And then he missed one against Colorado State. So he's 2 for 4. He's 50%. He hasn't missed a kick since the Baylor game. So he's made 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's made his last 7 kicks. So Alejandro Mata, I apologize. I was incorrect about you. Keep doing your thing. And I think he's one of my standouts for this game. You guys comment below who's someone who stood out to you in this game, and let's duke it out in the comments and maybe just talk about it there. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about what's next for the Colorado Buffaloes and what they need to do moving forward to keep going on this trend. This episode of Locked on Buffs is now brought to you by our sponsors over at Gametime. Gametime Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals and great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Gametime Picks makes it easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever it is. They got the tickets, all in prices. Toggling this feature allows you to see the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. So there shouldn't be like an additional $100 because if you hit the little button, you'll see the price that you're going to pay up front. They have all these great features, and I think my favorite feature is a seat view. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Their lowest price guarantee or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. What is up, everybody? Locked on Buffs here. We're talking about Coach Prime. We're talking about Colorado. They went bowling. They, I think, handled the Cincinnati Bearcats with ease. So let's talk about let's talk about what I think is next. Obviously, well, first of all, let's talk about the standings first. I think a lot of people want to know where Colorado stands. Am I right? So shout out to everyone in the comment section if you guys are there. Hello, everyone. Let's get the comments going. So Colorado with the win is now in 4th place in the Big 12. And the only teams that they're behind are BYU, who's undefeated, Iowa State, who's undefeated, Kansas State, who's Colorado's lone loss in Big 12 play. So what does this mean? Well, Kansas State and Iowa State play each other. Shiloh stood out. What possible? Yeah, Shiloh did stand out. You know, I think it's been, sorry to go on a quick rant here. I just like that comment. For Shiloh Sanders, I don't really know what's happening, right? I think in the past few games, he's really shown some immaturity, which is odd for a 6-year senior. I think me and him are the same age. I'm 24. I want to say we're the same age, right? Or I'm 25. I just turned 25. I forget my age sometimes. I'm going to Google it. I don't know his age. Oh, he's 24. So I'm a little bit older than him. But either way, 6-year senior, leader on the team, captain, someone who the defense wants to rely on, but hasn't been able to be consistent, right? He's getting unsportsmanlike conduct plays, missing tackles. Like I don't understand what's wrong with Shiloh Sanders at this moment. It's not for me to figure out. Obviously, that's the coach's job. But he has not been the same player that I thought he was last year. I'll just put it that way. But like I was saying, Colorado's 4th in the standings. They're 2nd in the Big 12 in points, trailing only BYU, and it's by 6 points. BYU is looking good this year. I'm surprised. But here's how things get a little weird. Shiloh's arm was broken, right? He had surgery. He's back. I think he's playing with a cast, right? I mean, that's partially a reason, but at the same time, you can't use a broken arm for an excuse for getting a unsportsmanlike conduct where did the guy walk into him and do the AI step over? Yeah, he did, right? But as we all know, it's always the guy who retaliates. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the guy started it. It's the guy who finishes it that always gets penalties. And I feel like we frequently are finding Shiloh Sanders in those situations, which is truly unfortunate. So Kansas State, like I was saying, they realistically have a fairly easy path. The rest of the way, they go Houston, Arizona State, which Arizona State's a tough out, so I wouldn't say it's easy, but they have Cincinnati as well, and then Iowa State. So Iowa State beats them, they knock them out. Obviously, Colorado has to handle business. Colorado has to win out as well. And Colorado's last 4 games are not looking nearly as tough as I thought they were at the beginning of the schedule. I was calling this the stretch of death, and now I'm like, realistically, at worst, Colorado should go 3-1 in this stretch. I personally think they should win all 4 of these games. At worst, 3-1. But yeah, back to the standings. Iowa State, they have Texas Tech, Kansas, Cincinnati, Utah, and Kansas State. Obviously, if they beat Kansas State, that does Colorado a favor. Colorado needs a couple of these teams to drop a game or two. But there's also a scenario where if Colorado wins out and they have just one conference loss and they have an early loss to Nebraska where they turn things around, there's a chance in a right world if other teams around the country begin losing, like the SEC continues to cannibalize itself, that Colorado gets an at-large bid. Now, I don't know if the College Football Playoff Committee would pick 2 Big 12 teams, because I do feel like there's a little bit of not a bias against the Big 12, but I do think that the Big 10 and the SEC are viewed as the better conferences. So they're probably, benefit of the doubt, probably going to go to like a 4th-ranked Big 10 team rather than a 3rd-ranked Big 12 team, or a 5th-ranked SEC team rather than the 3rd-ranked Big 12 team. So Colorado's best chance is obviously to get into the Big 12 title game and win it, but obviously that's dependent on what happens with Iowa State and BYU. I think they both have fairly easy paths to the Big 12 title game, so Colorado needs someone to sort of step up and help them out, and then they also have to handle their own business. At the end of the day, you can't win game, or you can't worry about what other people are doing if you're not handling your own business. So I think Colorado has a great chance to win out. Whether or not they'll make it to the Big 12 title game, that's really dependent on what those other teams do. But all Colorado could control is themselves, and I do think that Colorado is cruising right now. So I appreciate all you guys for tuning in on this late night episode of Locked On Buffs. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, so that way you never miss an episode of Locked On Buffs. We're here every single day making sure you guys have all the latest news on the Colorado Buffaloes. I appreciate the support. Hope everyone has a great Saturday night, and I hope everyone has a great Sunday. See you guys on Monday.